Blaming someone and holding them accountable might seem similar, but they represent fundamentally different approaches. Blame is about assigning fault, focusing on who is at fault for a particular mistake or failure. It's reactive, emotionally charged, and often focuses on judgment, leading to guilt or defensiveness. In contrast, accountability involves recognizing responsibility, acknowledging a mistake, and taking steps to correct the issue and improve moving forward. It's proactive, constructive, and solution oriented, focused on growth rather than fault. Understanding this distinction is essential for fostering healthier relationships and creating environments where people can take responsibility without fear or judgment. Blame, when applied to a situation, often comes with a sense of finality. You did this, and it's your fault. This focus on fault leads to defensiveness and shame, preventing individuals from reflecting on their actions or considering how they could improve. For example, imagine a parent who scolds their child harshly after they break something in the house. The child is likely to feel blamed, which can lead to feelings of guilt and a desire to escape from the situation, either through lying or withdrawing. This blame doesn't encourage growth. It simply assigns a negative label to the person at the center of the mistake. On the other hand, holding someone accountable is about addressing the issue without assigning fault in a punitive way. Instead of pointing fingers and criticizing, accountability is rooted in personal responsibility and the willingness to change. For example, in a workplace, if an employee misses a deadline, instead of blaming them, a manager might say, "The deadline was missed. Let's figure out what went wrong and how we can ensure this doesn't happen again." This statement doesn't focus on fault, rather, it focuses on the issue at hand and creates an opportunity for growth and improvement. Psychologically, the effects of blaming someone can be harmful as it often leads to negative emotional outcomes. When people are blamed, they may feel inferior, defensive, or resentful. These emotions don't promote change. Instead, they may lead to avoidance, more mistakes, or even a sense of helplessness. People who are often blamed may start to internalize these negative feelings, which can erode their self-esteem and confidence. In contrast, accountability encourages personal reflection and growth. When someone is held accountable, they are invited to take responsibility for their actions without the fear or being labeled as bad or incompetent. This can lead to higher levels of self-awareness, resilience, and motivation to improve. Take the example of a leader in an organization who makes a mistake during a crucial meeting. If the response is blame-oriented, the leader might feel humiliated, which could lead to disengagement or avoidance in the future. However, if the response is rooted in accountability, acknowledging the mistake and focusing on a corrective action, the leader is likely to learn from the error, share insights with the team, and grow from the experience. This approach cultivates trust and creates a more supportive and constructive environment. The difference between blame and accountability becomes even more significant when we consider their impact on relationships and societal structures. Blame often divides people. It creates an us versus them mentality, which undermines cooperation and understanding. For example, in family dynamics, if parents often blame their children for mistakes, it can breed resentment and weaken the bond between them. On the contrary, accountability strengthens relationships. It encourages individuals to take ownership of their actions and fosters open communication. When people are held accountable, they are more likely to approach the situation with a mindset of learning and improvement, strengthening their trust in each other. Cultural differences also shape how blame and accountability are perceived. In some cultures, blame is heavily emphasized as a means of maintaining control and order, which can lead to a culture of fear and compliance. However, societies that emphasize accountability tend to foster more constructive relationships and a growth mindset. Cultures that prioritize learning from mistakes rather than punishing them encourage a more resilient and self-aware population. To further illustrate this, consider a historical figure who was criticized for making a significant error, such as a political leader during a crisis. If the response to their mistake was to blame them, it would likely escalate tension and division. However, if the response was about accountability, allowing the leader to reflect, learn, and communicate openly about the mistake, it would encourage growth, transparency, and even inspire others to take responsibility for their actions. In everyday life, accountability encourages us to look at mistakes as opportunities for growth rather than as failures. For example, in relationships, when the significant other makes a mistake, instead of blaming them, holding them accountable for their actions in a loving and constructive way allows a relationship to move forward. It fosters an environment of mutual respect where both individuals take responsibility for their behavior and seek to improve together. It is important to note that holding someone accountable is not about being overly critical or harsh. While criticism can be part of the accountability process, the focus should always be on improvement and support, not punishment. In fact, excessive criticism can make accountability feel like blame, which defeats the purpose. The key is to approach accountability with empathy and a focus on solutions, rather than on who is to blame. In conclusion, the distinction between blaming someone and holding them accountable is crucial for both personal and professional development. Blame focuses on fault and judgment, which leads to defensiveness and stagnation, while accountability focuses on responsibility, growth, and improvement. When we shift from a culture of blame to one of accountability, we make it possible for individuals to become empowered to take responsibility for their actions, learn from mistakes, and become better versions of themselves. This shift is not only essential for individual growth, but is also vital for building trust, cooperation, and resilience in our relationships, workplaces, and communities. So, next time a mistake is made, whether at work, at home, or in any aspect of life, ask yourself, are we blaming or are we holding each other accountable? And how can we ensure that the approach we take fosters growth and not division?